Skip, we probably should have saw this coming. Now, I was with a few ones, and they called Shannon, you're a hater because you played with the Ravens and you don't know what you're talking about. I said, Skip, the problem that I see with them offensively is their inability to run the football. You can't have 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, can't pick that up, and then you drop back to pass, and guy get his hands up, Skip, now you're off the field. And what we saw was Ben's inability to push the ball down the field. Now, in the last 30 years, the Steelers are the 4th team to turn the ball over 3 times in the 4th quarter. The teams lost by an average of 11 points a game. I mean, those 14. Skip, what was the final score last night? They were right on cue to what would happen to the previous 3 teams that did what they did last night. Now, the Browns didn't want to do anything out of, didn't get carried away, Skip, because this game really could have been over. If they'd have came out and scored right after the half, because it was 35-7 going in, Baker did a great job of leading them down the field, getting it to 35-7. If they scored a touchdown right out the gate, the ball game is over from that point on. But, Skip, we saw this coming. The Steelers had been playing. They've been trending down for an extended period of time. And we let it say, well, they got it in cruise control. They're trying to avoid injuries. But what we saw, the inability to run the football and the defensive injuries started to mount. When they lost Bud Dupree, now I can divert all my attention to T.J. Watt. And plus, they got the all-pro right tackle in Jack Conklin, so that kind of neutralized.
Although he went out about mid-game last night. He limped off.
But if you think about it, Skip, you look at the center. He's an all-pro. You look at the right guard. They're loaded. So,
except Batonio wasn't there,
right.
Who's a Pro Bowl guard with COVID.
Right. So if you look at them across the board, even if Steelers at full strength, they can do a great job of neutralizing what the Steelers do well. Now they can't run the football, Skip, and I knew eventually it was going to catch up. Ben not pushing the ball down the field, a lot of tip passes. Skip, when we say empty calories, this is the epitome. This is French toast with powdered sugar. This is potato chip, French fries. Because you're going to look at Ben and be like, oh, my, Ben threw for 500. That's only the 2nd time in NFL history a guy thrown for 500 yards in a playoff game. Tom got the record, 505 in the Super Bowl. But, Skip, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and he had to play. None of these yards were meaningful because none of them came within 1 score or 2 scores. Basically, they've been 3 scores the entire game. So we shouldn't be surprised by what we saw with the Steelers because we saw it trending that way for an extended period of time, and we let it go unnoticed.
Okay, so back to the question, how shocked was I? I was shocked, but I was not surprised, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Obviously, I was shocked by the opening of the game because when do you ever see anything like that happen?
The Super Bowl.
Except for that Peyton Manning Super Bowl versus Legion of Boom.
Well, at least they got a safety. They were smart enough to fall on it in his hole.
And that wound up 43-8.
Yes.
That was much worse than this was.
Correct.
Because the Legion of Boom was just impenetrable.
Right.
And once they jumped out to a lead, it was game way over.
Correct.
This was not game way over because there was a flashpoint moment. I'm going to go to that before I rave about Baker and company.
So you thought the Steelers were going to actually come back and win this game or get in this game?
I was rooting for Baker because I love Baker because he played for the University of Oklahoma, and I pushed for him to be the first pick in the draft. But I will say this. I thought that Cleveland, the Browns, were goners with 4:52 left. So it's right away, first play of the 4th quarter. And I'm the biggest Mike Tomlin fan. I've said it 1,000 times on this show. But I thought he blew this one because Ben finally locked in and cleaned it up and started to hit wide open receivers. Because I'm going to remind everybody, Cleveland was down 3 of 4 starters in the defensive backfield. Okay, well, what is that any shock that he starts to pick them to pieces?
Right.
So they have cut it to 35-23, and they have 4th and 1 at their own 46-yard line. I thought it would be like a 90% conversion rate on it because Ben was hot. And when he gets hot, I always say, beware backyard Ben, because when he starts just playing some backyard football, he has enough weapons, not at running back, but all the wideouts.
Right.
And you can throw in the tight ends if you want. I know they're hit and miss. But still, he's got enough receiving weapons that he can riddle that defense. So do I think he would have converted that to Juju over the middle for 3 yards or whatever it took? Yes, I do.
I think what scared Coach Tomlin is that he had it 3rd and 1. He got stopped, and he had another short, and they got their hands up, and he got an interception.
But all of a sudden, the momentum had shifted dramatically and wildly to the home team.
I know where you're going to go with this, and we're going to talk about it a little later. I think this situation is different than Mike Vrabel. Even though they had done a great job on Derrick Henry, that is still Derrick Henry. James Conner isn't Derrick Henry.
I didn't even think twice about Vrabel.
Right.
But I thought 5 times about this one. Because once he punted, Baker and company went whoosh down the field and scored, and all of a sudden, yikes, it felt like game over.
Right.
But what if Pittsburgh had converted and converted and converted and gone right down the field and scored, and all of a sudden it's 35-30? Would you have liked Pittsburgh's chances from there? Sure, you would have. Okay, now back to what I think happened last night. I agree with you. Pittsburgh was unraveling down the stretch. They got to 11-0, and I thought a lot of people think fraudulent 11-0. I don't think fraudulent because they've beaten Baltimore twice in that stretch.
But you saw them against the Steelers. You saw them against the Cowboys. We saw them against lesser teams.
You could see the wheels starting to teeter. Maybe one wheel had come off. Obviously, Bud Dupree wheel came off. And obviously, Devin Bush had already been lost in the middle. And I love Devin Bush and thought he was a steal of the draft that year. And obviously, Joe Hayden was gone last night. So you're taking away 3 of your key pieces. Defensive line, linebacker, cornerback.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think's going to happen? They're going to have a hard time. But I also thought that this was big brother to little brother. And what did Juju continue to say last week?
The
Browns is the Browns. And I got it. That's their attitude. The Browns is the Browns. Okay, they're coming in here, and they'd beaten them 17 straight times at Pittsburgh. All of a sudden, the Browns are COVID-racked. All of a sudden, they don't have their head coach and this coach and that, and Bill Callahan, the great offensive line coach. And all of a sudden, the special teams coach is the head coach? Coach Prefer? Seriously? What is this? And they're down all these players. They're down Denzel Ward. We could go on Batonio.
The play caller.
Okay, and the play caller.
Maybe the Steelers overlooked that, Skip. Okay, they can't practice. They can't.
Okay, and they can't practice for really 2 weeks. They had not been able to practice. And I think that they were just laying in the weeds because they came in as Baker's buzzsaw because they've been trending north for the last 5-6 weeks. And this team, as you said, has been trending south. So I believe this team, the once proud Pittsburgh Steelers, walked onto the field last night thinking, you know what? They're in trouble, and it's time for us to flip the proverbial switch. And when they flipped it, the electricity had been turned off.
Somebody shut the power off, Skip. They ran into the same trap that I ran into when I was evaluating them. I said, hold on. They were a 2-point conversion with Mason Rudolph. Excuse me, Mason Rudolph. I said, they're a 2-point conversion from tying the game with Mason Rudolph, and the Browns are playing everybody going full throttle. You telling me when they get T.J. Watt and they get Cam Hayward and they get Big Ben and this one back, they can't beat that team?
Agreed.
But we didn't anticipate the Steelers getting off to the start. Skip, it's hard to overcome that momentum when it comes. 3 turnovers in the first quarter. Skip, you look up and you're like, man, are we really down 28-0? Really? Yeah, you are. Okay. And you got a dogfight. And so now, Skip, we can relax now. You put no pressure on Baker. Baker's like, I ain't got to do anything. I can just hand the ball off. I can play fake because you got to start Chubb because Chubb was running the ball. Kareem Hunt was running the ball. So you made it real easy. You didn't put him to the test. No. A guy in his first playoff start, Skip, you want to put him to the test. Make it be a nip and tuck ball game. Make him have to make those tough throws. Well, you made it easy on him. You had done all the heavy lifting for him by turning the ball over and letting him get a 28-point lead.
Okay, so speaking of those turnovers, this was a team that was not ready to play a team that was ready to play. If we could see those first 4 turnovers in a row, because they came bang, 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 and it's the shell shock of this is so there's the first snap. And obviously, neither Ben nor Connor made much of an effort to. You got to fall.
You got to get on that.
Come on,
Skip. Even if you just fall on, you lost yards, you punt the ball, you make them go. You got to just fall on
the ball. One of you two, and it's like you got it, I got it. No, you take it, I got it, and it goes in the end zone for a touchdown. And then here he goes, and that's just carelessness. Yes. That's like I'm rolling out. I'm not sure where I'm going to throw this, and then that's just a little high and wide, but he maybe should have snagged it, and it turns into an interception. Then that one gets popped up in the air, and frankly, I'll be the first to admit, I don't even know who that guy was. Some backup defensive lineman, and he makes the catch of his life.
Right.
Okay, well, that's just like not meant to be. Right. You're like, oh, my God. But then here he came, and to your point, he winds up. I tweeted in the first quarter, don't be surprised if he throws for 500 yards and he got to 501. Well, he's just going to be playing its backyard Ben.
What you expect to do? You're down 28 points basically the entire game until midway through the third quarter. What do you expect them to throw for? The run game is all out, and they're saying, let's not give up anything deep. So you're really playing into his hands because all Ben wants to do is throw short anyway. So not giving him anything deep. So basically, you're just conceding, okay, take the 10, take the 12, take the 15. We're just not going to give you a 30, 40-yard touchdown. And so Ben ends up with a pile of numbers, Skip, but they were meaningless. You can't turn the ball because you do realize the reason why you got to that number is because you put the Steelers in the hole to begin with.
You did. So to me, even Ben with half an arm is still very dangerous for the reason you just said.
Yes.
But in the end, rising above this game was the kid I still love. And we've gone back and forth about him on this show. To me, the Browns are all about Baker Mayfield. He has grown up right before your very eyes. And for the first time in his life, he is finally starting to live up to all those commercials. And I get tired of them. I think they're great, but I get worn out from them because as soon as he'd make a play last night, we'd cut to commercial, and there he was in his house again for Progressive Insurance, right?
Well, you can't get a better audience than what you had last night.
You cannot, and he was a big star of the Nissan Heisman House commercials. Right. So the point is, I didn't love any of that because he kept painting the target on his back bigger and bigger, and he couldn't live up as he went through one coordinator, one head coach after another. And finally, Coach Stefanski has been the best thing that ever happened to him post-Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, obviously, because all of a sudden he's got a comfort zone. All of a sudden, and you have disagreed with me on this all year long, the second best thing that ever happened to Baker Mayfield was, and I'm knocking on wood for Odell because I still think he's got a big, good heart and a huge talent, but when Odell went down and out, it clarified the receiving core for Baker, where he wasn't so Odell-centric anymore. He didn't force feed Odell the football. And all of a sudden, he could start spreading the wealth. And they started to look more like a football team, and he quit turning the ball over.
Right.
So he's now gone 11 games, 19 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. That will work.
And it's Skip, but here's the key. Is not falling behind and being able to run the football because Chubb and Hunt was running it last night. Skip. Now, they didn't run for a ton of yards, but every time they needed – I mean, do you see those touchdown runs that Kareem Hunt got? That's how you want it. Now, if he was still in Kansas City, they'd be the prohibitive favorite for the next couple of years. But even as well as Baker's playing, I still believe he's the third best quarterback in that draft. I'm still taking Lamar and Josh Rosen. We're going to talk about him a little later. Josh Allen.
I hear you on Lamar. I'll give you Lamar. I will not give you Josh Allen.
What?
I will not. This kid is electric. Baker Mayfield is you're missing the point here. He's the driving force of the Cleveland Browns.
Skip, no. He's the driving force as long as you're not asking him. You got to think about it now. Think about when they took off when Chubb came back from that injury and they were able to run the football and now you can play fake. Do you believe he'd have been this clean had the game been nip and tuck and they put the ball in his hands? They did a great job. The Steelers did them a favor by turning the ball over like they did, Skip, because Baker could relax. They took all the pressure off him.
You remember it was just a few weeks back in Week 14. It was December the 14th on a Monday night. Baker played Lamar head up, and they went back and forth. Can you top this? Yes, I can top that. And they went back and forth, and it ended up 47-42 Baltimore. It was a launch game for the Ravens.
And just imagine if a Lamar hadn't gone out. Lamar might have had 300 yards rushing, and it wouldn't have been that close. Y'all got a couple of drives on McSorley.
Yeah, but Baker Mayfield was electric in that game. He'll be electric. Again, am I going to pick them to win at Kansas City? I am not. But will anybody pick them to win? Nobody will, and that's when they will be dangerous.
Exactly.
Yep.
Skip, here's the thing. We saw this coming, and what normally happens, whatever you're weak at in the regular season and you're fortunate enough to make the playoffs, when it gets exploited in the playoffs, it gets exacerbated. What couldn't the Steelers do all year, basically? Run the football. Okay, so now you can't run it come playoff time. They don't even worry about running. Now, I don't know what they're going to do in the draft, but they need to get a back or they need to say, lineman, instead of all these pass sets, we're going to need you to put your hand in the dirt and come off the football. Now, one or two things, and they both might be true. But when you can't run it or you have issues, it gets exacerbated come playoff times, and it makes it look bad. But, Skip, they've been like this. They couldn't run the football. It just got exacerbated last night. On 3rd and 1, Skip, you got to get 3rd and 1. You got to stay on the field. They hand the ball to the fullback, and it's not his fault. He loses a yard. And then it's 3rd-and-1. Ben tried to throw a quick pass. He gets batted up in there, and it's picked.
Yep.
Because you can't run it.
Yep. All I know is if Big Ben Roethlisberger threw for 501 yards last night, it's hard for me to believe that he's going to hang him up off that game. No. And he sat on the bench, and he was crying real tears. I don't think those were crocodile tears.
Well, if I'm a fan, I'm crying too because you turned it over 5 times.
He did.
Well, he turned it over 4 times. The center, the first one on Pouncey.
But at home, if you're going to lose the turnovers 5-0, you're going to lose.
You're lucky because if you're on the road and you lose 5-0, you're going to get beat by 30.
You are going to get beat.
Skip, look. In today's game, the quarterback is making so much money. It's hard, Skip. It's not like it was when Roger Staubach and all them other guys making $300,000-$400,000 was getting punished. Skip, now they protect the quarterback. And how do you just walk away from $30 million? How do you just say, you know what? Nah, I'm good. Where else you gonna make that kind of money at? And if you notice, Skip, you're hearing more and more guys. You hear Aaron Rodgers says, "What? Now Aaron is playing unbelievable, but he says he wants to play into his 40s." Sure, Russell Wilson says he wants to play into his 40s. Skip, the money is just too good to walk away, and guys are playing at an elite level. The question is, the Steelers going to have to do some things, Skip. The Ben is going to have, I don't know, like I said, he just came off the elbow ligament, so maybe that had a lot to do with it, Skip. But I just don't know if you can just dink and dunk your way to championships. You got to push the ball down the field. You have to be able to run the ball sometime. They can't run the ball no time.
That is true.
And then they fell behind it, so now the run game and guys just, it's good.
So allow me to say that if Baker Mayfield ever so much as wins 1 Super Bowl in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, they'll build a statue.
Well, he might be even bigger than your man LeBron James.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know. I don't know about that because is football not bigger than basketball in Cleveland?
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
of course.
It is.
It's been there for so long, Skip. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if you were to win there are certain places, Skip, that if you win Super Bowls, to lack of a better word, sacrilegious, you're God. And Cleveland is one of those places.
You would be a God.
You look at what Jim McMahon did in Chicago. There are certain places, Skip, because the history of the franchise goes back for so far.
Yep.
You're royalty. It's never going away. You know, Aaron Rodgers and Favre and those guys, in certain places now, you got to win. In Green Bay, you got to win Super Bowl.
Yep.
Because Star won and Favre won and Rodgers won, so you come after that.
Agreed.
That's what you're measured against. The 49ers, you're measured against Joe and Steve. Certain places that have quarterback lineage, you got to win. But you win a Super Bowl in Cleveland? Hell, first of all, they ain't never been to one, let alone.
So we just saw, 4 out of 6 underdog road teams win in the wild card round. So just what if, I know it's a pie in the sky long shot, but what if the 2 road teams win next week? I give Lamar obviously a better shot than I give Baker, but that would be Baker at Lamar to get to the Super Bowl. And remember, Baker plays very well against Lamar and Baltimore. He's played very high-level football against them.
But, Skip, the thing that Cleveland seems to can't do is stop the run against Baltimore. Baltimore runs against it. Skip, they getting off the bus saying, we getting 200. Stop us from getting 300 or 400. Because they going to get 2.
Okay, that's why I like their chances at Buffalo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because they can control. Skip, if they hadn't called that pick, and we're going to talk about this, had they not called that pick on Willie Snead, I'm not so sure Tennessee had ever got the ball back. Because they had taken 8 minutes off the clock just then.
They had.
They about to use that last 4 minutes up. I don't know how they get the ball back.
They can also stop the run.
That's why they go get Calais Campbell. That's why they get Derek Wolfe. For that game right there, Derrick Henry. Tannehill, you had a good season. Let me see if you can really do it. Everybody say they talking about you. Let me see. We're going to take Derrick Henry away. We're going to see what you're going to do.
Well, for a while, it looked like he could do it. Yes.
Can we just say congratulations, though, to those Browns? First playoff win.
Shake it, baby. Pull it off.
26
now you're back.
years. Got to be happy for those fans. It's been a long time coming.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.